Well, actually, on the day, I had a good night's sleep. I was up at 6 a.m., I had my usual breakfast, I got to the hospital onto the ward in good time for 8 o'clock. Very quickly after that, Tom Gilbertson and his team were there, and they were carrying out all their checks. I then had my head shaved by one of the surgeons, Mr. Khan, and then I was taken down to the University Clinical Research Centre. And thank you to those porters, because it's a long, long way from Ward 23. When I got there, there was a big reception committee. As people from Insightec, the Insightec team. There were neurosurgeons, neurologists, a psychiatrist. There was a couple of anaesthetists. There was also the NHS doctors and nurses, and of course the CRC staff. So a big team, which was very comforting to know that there was a lot of people there to support me. And also, I later found out there were a couple of remote Insightec teams on standby in case there were any problems. There weren't any problems, so actually that bit went very well. When I was taken into the MRI machine room, I was actually asked what sort of music I would like. You can't have it through the headphones, but they would play it in the room for me. And I jokingly said, have you got Pink Floyd's Welcome to the Machine? But they didn't actually have that one. Overall, I spent 3 hours in the MRI machine. I felt very comfortable in there. And that's mainly due to my breathing and meditation technique. So I'd also like to thank my yoga and meditation teachers for that. Actually, the 3 hours does pass very quickly, because after the initial setup, then at each stage you're being taken out of the machine partially, and various tremor checks are carried out by Tom and his team, and then so it just passes really quickly. Well, during the while I was in the MRI machine, and I could actually see the procedure working, and a progressive reduction in my tremor. That was so emotional, actually seeing that. It was it was absolutely fantastic. And then when the procedure was finished, because I actually hadn't had any sedation, I was invited to have lunch with the team. And I think they were a bit surprised to see a patient being wheeled in and having sandwiches and a drink with them. In fact, the Insightec team, who have done this procedure many, many times, said that was a first. So that was really good, actually. And then eventually I got back up onto the ward, and in a quiet moment I just lifted a glass of water with my left hand and drank from it. I was so happy There were tears of joy while that was happening. Yeah, a great moment. Yes, well, there's many things, and this treatment was for my non-dominant left hand. So I've been using my left hand to uh, drink tea, have coffee. In fact, have coffee. I had coffee on the way home from the hospital in a coffee shop. That was a first. And crucially, lifting a pint glass with my left hand, which I don't think had ever lifted a pint to my lips in my entire life. So this was a new thing for it to get used to. Camera and binoculars, which I mentioned in the pre-ops video, I just couldn't use those. Well, now they're much steadier and I can use those quite happily. So that's a big draw. There's there's things like yoga, my yoga class. I can hold the stressed arm positions for a lot longer now. I just couldn't really do it before because of the tremor. Yeah, well, I'm using my non-dominant left hand a lot more now. I actually use it to shave with a razor, which I couldn't do before. I also use it for drinking tea, lifting glasses. Yeah, the mouse. The mouse, I've moved to the left-hand side now, so that's nice and steady and doesn't have a life of its own. I'm in control of that, and crucially, I don't feel the need to take straws with me anymore. Yoga classes, they're a lot easier because of stressed arm positions I can hold, well, for the whole duration now. The big one that really surprised me was I attended a funeral a couple of weeks ago, and normally at these sort of gatherings, whilst they are highly emotional, I find myself uncontrollably shaking and feeling the need to grip and hold on to a chair or a pew, whatever. On this occasion, I was completely calm and steady. So that was a real surprise, a real bonus, because that will give me a lot more confidence to attend other big gatherings, which I would usually dread or avoid. Everything is exciting. It's like a new dawn for me. As I promised before the procedure, I have now booked my Gaelic immersion course on North Uist. So that's exciting, not only because that's a new island I've never been to before, but also hopefully will encourage and improve my language skills. Well, words, of course, don't suffice for what Tom has achieved with this project, his management of the project and the medical team. For me, of course, it's been an unmitigated success with minimal adverse effects. I know this sounds like a bit of a cliche, but Tom and his team have changed my life. Of course, none of this wouldn't have happened without the University of Dundee and the donors raising the funds for the procurement of the equipment and the ongoing operation. And I am thankful and grateful for that.